Bun venit la un nou episod al podcastului 𝐼𝐻. Astăzi o avem alături de noi pe 𝐼𝐻 𝐍𝐚, o artistă contemporană remarcabilă. Născută în anul 1990 în Sofia, Bulgaria, Maria explorează teme sociale și politice printr-o varietate de medii artistice, inclusiv colaj, obiecte, instalație, video și fotografie. Practica sa artistică este profund influențată de contextul locurilor pe care le explorează, folosind adesea obiecte găsite, fotografii și arhive pentru a crea lucrări care provoacă și reflectă asupra vieții sociale comune, asupra grijilor, asupra încrederii și responsabilității. Maria abordează aceste subiecte critice cu simț al umorului și cu ironie, ceea ce o face să se distingă în lumea artei contemporane. Sunt Mihaela Ghiță, urmează un dialog în limba engleză pe care l-am înregistrat cu 𝐼𝐻 𝐍𝐚 la finalul rezidenței 𝐼𝐻. Hello Maria, welcome to 𝐼𝐻 podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
I enjoy engaging with artists for biographical interviews. What particularly interests me is the mechanism of creativity. Creativity can be stimulated by curiosity or passion. It develops through exploration and experimentation, through connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. That's why I suggested you a discussion about you, your artistic projects, the passion that drive you, in order to arrive at the concept of your work within the 𝐼𝐻 residency. What is the trigger that stimulates your creativity? There is something like this?
For me, this is something really interesting. What's mean expected and what could be unexpected? And of course, there are a lot of different positions. Depends of the people, depends of their field and so on. But the thing that it's really interesting for me is to those areas and places that are some kind of liminal, let's say, situations that are somewhere in between, and the entanglements between our human society and the environment can tell, this is something which is really interesting for me, because we as a people can learn a lot from non-human perspectives, but to go deeper and to see how exactly those different ecosystems, for example, or some species or some processes are working, those are different topics, and we can look in them through different processes. And that's why for me the art and science collaborations are really interesting.
Your works are inspired by nature. How did your journey into the contemporary art begin? Do you live in a science environment?
Yeah, my work, it's always there is the nature in the projects, but the nature not only speaking about, for example, forest or like wild places, but nature also in our human relationships, the nature of our relations as well, between us as a society, but also between the nature of and the connections between the people and the environment that they are living in. And I grew up really close to my grandma. She was a person with a really open imagination, let's say, and she was always working with plants, and I grew up in a house that was also something important for me, because I spent a lot of time in our garden with her. So she was inviting different kind of, things that she believed in. So she was with really open imagination, and I learned a lot through her. And she teach me that not to believe only in the things that are obvious, but to create by myself some kind of reality. And even if it's not the reality, which is the reality of the neighbor, for example, to believe in it and to create by myself the word. Of course, we're not speaking to be too far from the reality, but only one leg in your imagination, and the other one in the so-called social system.
But it was a specific moment or experience that inspired you to become an artist?
Maybe there are a lot of that kind of moments. In my life, there wasn't like a place where I was thinking what I have to do, but it was always there. And probably because my childhood with my grandma, we were always inviting some kind of things that we believed in. And it started like that. My grandparents, so my grandma, she was sealing a lot. And my grandfather, he was working with the wood. So yeah, we were creating together the things that we were used in our everyday life. And probably also I'm from Bulgaria. I was born in 1990, exactly at the boundary when the totalitarian time finished and the so-called democracy started. And it was a huge collapse. Back in time, there was almost nothing that you can buy from the shops normally nowadays, of course. But it was really the diverse and specific period of time from our history, from our recent history. And I'm still thinking a lot, of course. We have to rethink a lot of things through our life about the period of time that we were born, because those things somehow shape us in a way. And I'm trying to learn somehow from our past, because it's something that it's present, of course, and it's something that could reflect in the future.
I've noticed that your works encompass a wide range of expressive languages, from performance to installations, video, photography, objects, collage, etc. 𝐿𝒊𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒍𝒂, one of the artists in this year's 𝑓usion-𝐴ir residencies, told me that self-awarenesses and honesty towards your ideas as an artist are very important. How do you explain this versatility in expression, as a search for your own voice, or as a lack of confidence, or rather as an easy in diversification?
I am experimenting a lot with the materials and medias, and depends of the project, of course, but really often I'm working with found objects and materials that sometimes they're part of the story that I would like to share. And for me, the material, it's really important, the material that I'm using. So if I would like to speak about for example, the life in the wetland ecosystem, probably I'm gonna work with some materials that are coming from a specific wetland ecosystem, and depends of the topic I'm speaking right now. For example, my last project that I did, it's called Paradise Marsh, and I was working in the Dragoman Marsh in Bulgaria, which is a really interesting ecosystem, a really interesting place because of the history of the place and because of all the processes that are happening there. So the Paradise Marsh exhibition happened in December last year in the National Gallery Square 500. The curator was Martina Iordanova, and then I created installation that was made out of biomaterial, made out of reeds that I collected with the ecological organizations that are working into the marsh. So there are some periods of time that the reed have to be cleaned. I collected the material and I transformed it into do-it-yourself so-called materials or biomaterials. That was the element which was like the skin of my sculptures. And also I was doing some field recordings. I was working with the footages from the camera traps that we're placing there, because for the biologists it's important to see when we are not there, we as a people, we are not there in the marsh, how the marsh is living.
I was amazed about that skin you are talking about. It's like a paper or a skin, as you said. How do you made this kind of paper? You put to dry the material from the water of marsh?
It's not a paper. It's something like bioplastic, let's say. That it's a really simple recipe with alginate and glycerin and the reeds from the marsh and water. And I made, I cooked them, let's say. And then I created like big sheets, 2 meters long, and they became part of that body of work. In 2022, I was part of the 𝐼𝐚 Media Art Festival in Hallein in Austria. And there I met with researchers and artists and people who were already was working since a few years on the topic of smart materials. And then we collaborated together and we were working on a project that was called Do-It-Yourself Material Speculations. And I learned a lot from them, from different recipes. If someone is curious to know more, there are a lot of information online, and a lot of artists are working with that kind of do-it-yourself biomaterials.
Do you have a most important exhibition? What is the iconic exhibition of you till now?
Interesting question. Maybe the Paradise Marsh. I was invited to create an exhibition in the National Gallery in a specific hall. It's specific because there is an ancient tomb. For me, it's important to work together with the space, let's say. And I'm really often working site-specifically. So when I received that invitation, for me it was important to speak about the life. Because when there is a tomb, maybe we can go to the perspective of the dead or the beliefs in that way. It depends on the culture, of course. But for me it was really interesting to speak about the life and what is more, inspireful than the wetlands areas. Because they're full with life. Of course, there is the process of decay, which also is part of that process. So Paradise Marsh, it started with that invitation, and also I was already part of the residency at the Dragoman Marsh, which is a 4 years project. It's a European project between 6 countries. Bulgaria is one of them. So I'm gonna work there for 4 years, and it's an amazing opportunity because normally the residencies they're not so long term. In a not so long time, you can spend in a place with the people who are working there and who can provide you with a lot of insights. But also it's really interesting because for that time there are a lot of people who are living around, and I have an opportunity to speak with them and to see the perspective on the one hand of the scientists, on the other of the people, the community that it's living around, and also to learn more about all the creatures and all the organisms and microorganisms and the processes and the cycles of the water, let's say, because sometimes we speak about the place, if that place it's a land or it's a water, and this is some question especially for that place. And for me it's interesting when the water disappear, what is the reason for that. And there are a lot of different stories. Of course we are going right now in the direction of the water access and water issues and the quality of the water, and everywhere there are different kind of problematics that are around. But speaking from my perspective, I can share, I can work on some topics that are really close to me and that I am part of. Let's say I am living in the places where there are some kind of particular stories, but also on another hand, they're really global kind of processes that we can see in different places. Doesn't matter where you are in the world.
In our residency, Fusion Air residencies, you are more biophilic or technophilic as well?
I am more maybe somewhere in between. I don't know, because still I'm in a process. Let's see what's gonna be at the end. Maybe post-technophilic, but it's really interesting, the terms when we speak about biophilia, technophilia, and the collaboration.
I want to speak now about the education. Tell us about your artistic influences and formation. You graduated University of Fine Art in Sofia. Do you think academic education is necessary for being an artist? Can you be an artist without a university degree?
Oh, of course. I'm absolutely sure. For me I graduated the National School of Fine Arts. Then I started to study in the academy, and there were a lot of things around that happened. I don't know, I was in Sofia in that time. For sure, to be an artist, it's not necessarily to be educated in the academy, or maybe even better, I guess. Depends, of course, of the place. So the academy in Bulgaria, it's pretty conservative. Of course, I'm thankful for some academical knowledge that I received in a way, but at the same time, I think a bit critically about that education. And I believe it could be now in 21st century, there are a lot of things that are going on around and they have to be part of that education, but still there is I think it's a big way. It's a long way to be there. I graduated with a bachelor and master degree in the academy in Sofia, but also I was as an Erasmus student in Spain, in Granada. That was really interesting experience for me. And then I was in Salzburg Summer Academy. When I finished my graduation, then I was there. And I believe we are learning through all our life from different places, but especially for me, to be honest, I needed several years, maybe after my graduation, the academy to somehow to educate myself in some other stuff that wasn't part in the program.
When was the moment, if it is one, what was the moment when you could say, yes, I'm an artist?
I believe in the projects that I'm doing, and I'm really inspired. And I think also I'm looking back in some of them.
But it was a certain moment in your life when you say, yes, I become an artist. Now I am an artist.
It's not easy to say. I don't know. I mean, I always assume myself as an artist. There was no special like a lifestone or something like that change the things. It was always there. For me, it's really important to experiment, learn new things.
I ask because I want to know, you are an artist because you are feeling you are an artist, or because of diploma of bachelor and master in science in fine arts, or someone critics of art say about you, yes, you are an artist, and so on. As an artist, you need the confirmation from the other part to confirm you that you are an artist, or you feel in your inside that you are an artist?
I feel that I'm an artist. Of course, it's good when you receive a feedback about the work that you're doing. It's important, of course, as this one as well, for sure. But at the same time, for me, it's important to share some stories, to open some space where we can discuss with other people some moments and situations of our life. And I don't know how to do it in another way. And this is the way that I see I can be part of the whole conversation.
Because in this case, everyone who said, I made something with my hand and I consider I'm an artist, then from that moment he's an artist. That was, I mean.
You're speaking about something between Craftworks and where is the border, you ask me. Well, interesting question. Sometimes, there are some people that are not thinking about themselves as an artist, and after, when they died, their archives or all the works that they did, then there are all that critiques and people that and curators and historians that can write and explain and situate that person as an artist. So I told you, there was no time or a moment when I switched from something else. I was doing always that, and there was no question for me what I have to do. But after my education, I started to work. I graduated book and printed graphics. So I was working a lot with the book as a medium for storytelling, and the book as an object, and what's mean the book in the contemporary art, and how we can, what could be. So in the moment I was working with pop-up books, with artist books, then I was going out of the shape of the book, creating installations that were in the logic of the book, let's say. But then I decided to go outside of the book and to create sculptures and installations and performances or video works. But during that time, I needed a job, and I was working for different publishing houses, with many different publishing houses. So I worked a lot in that. Then I was invited to teach in the National School of Fine Arts, and for 2 years and a half I was a teacher there. And then in a moment, I made another personality that started to work with some commissioned works with the books. because just it was important for me to separate my artistic practice than the person who is doing that as give your salary. But then in a moment I decided that if I couldn't continue like that, because it wasn't enough time for my artistic practice to be a teacher, to work with some publishing houses and so on. So this is personal for me, because the people are different. There are a lot of colleagues that are pretty well in that. They are not. There is no problem for some people to manage and to be all of that things. But for me, it was really difficult. So I decided to do that, and
you decided to be an artist.
I decided to be freelance artist, to quit everything else. Of course, it's not easy decision, because it's really challenging. Then nothing is for sure, of course. You have to work a lot, much more than if you have like a regular job. But that was my decision. I made it maybe 3-4 years ago. And still I am doing it. I'm a freelance artist. Many artists are facing that kind of situation, because nothing is granted, but what is granted? Anyway, yes. Yeah, when you ask me, this is a kind of moment that was really important in my artistic career, let's say.
You said earlier that you have a site-specific approach in many of your works. Now, for the 𝑀𝑎𝑟𝑖 residencies, you are also choosing to make a connection with a place where you lived for almost 4 weeks, 𝑛𝑒𝑣𝒊𝒕 Manor and Park in Măgurele, with all its history brought into contemporary times. I'd like you to expand on the concept of your work. How does the specificity of location influence your creative process?
The place inspired me a lot. I don't know this time, because the exhibition will be in SAC Gallery, so I'm not gonna probably work site specifically, because the work will be presented there. But speaking about the place where I spend like more than 3 weeks, I guess, as an artist in the residency, the Otto Tăleșanu Manor, or the castle. When I arrived for the residency, in my mind there were several ideas related with water topics. But when I arrived, I learned about the history of the place. So I'm living in Otto Tăleșanu castle right now, and that place was a luxury place for aristocracy back in time. Then it was turned into a school for girls, and the area around the park, there was a lake. So the lake is famous also as the Eminescu Lake, because there are some poetry texts of Eminescu who wrote about that area. And then the lake was turned into a swimming pool. And right now there are a lot of institutes with scientists, but learning about the story of the school for the girls, when in that school they were taught to be good wives and mothers. Then I found a few images from some archive that was published online, with pictures with those girls around the lake or in their classes while they were growing some vegetables, or they were cooking, or they were working with fabric, with textile, they were doing some embroidery. When I was in the institutes, because for the project I'm collaborating with the Institute of Laser and Plasma and Material Physics as well. So in the Institute of Laser and Plasma, they have some projects related with fabric and conductive materials, and there were some bridges that started to appear. And then we spoke with you about the story of the place. Thanks to you, I've met with Corina Simeon from the Institute of Physics and Nuclear Engineering. That was really interesting moment because she's doing a research about the place and the history of the place since maybe 30 years or even more. And she have amazing archive with images, with information, with stories, but also some data about the park and the trees that are living there. We started to speak a lot about the water, the cycles of the water, because there are some springs that are in that areas. The lake was natural water body, then it was turned into a swimming pool, but it was shaped as a swimming pool, but still there underwater because of the rain and so on. Right now the pool, there is the deepest part of the pool, there is still water inside, but at the same time the pool, it's not in function right now. There are different projects for the park, for the renovation of the park. Probably, I hope they will happen in the next years. And for me, it was interesting thinking about the pool as a place for a consciousness and for storytelling. And the pool is never empty. And I decided to, for now, the working title of my project is The Pool It's Never Empty, because always there's some layers that are there to discover.
I know you will start doing some experiments. Have you thought about how your work will look?
Yes, I collected different data with the great help of the scientists that I collaborated with, because we took samples from the water of the pool. I'm working with the water from the pool. And from those samples, right now I have some absorption spectroscopy, some optical microscopy analysis, some electronic magnetic microscopes analysis, and also I filtered some amount of water, and I took the sediments from the water, and they created kind of landscape, let's say, that I have right now. The data that I collected, I'm thinking to turn into embroideries or in a textile works. Somehow we will make that bridges between the school with the girls and nowadays the process of the researchers. And of course, me as an artist there in that place.
Have you collaborated with other scientists in your professional life?
I shared about that experience in 𝐚𝑒, in 𝐼𝐻. Then I was part of art and science residency in Varna in Bulgaria, and I was working with the plants then, and I collaborated with some scientists, and my project was called weeds. So I spent one day weeding with the women in the sea garden together with them. And for me it was interesting to speak about how we code the things, how we as a people speak about, for example, what's mean weed. And the basic explanation is a plant that is growing in a wrong place. And it was interesting to think what's mean the wrong place, so I collaborated with a scientist. We were looking in the Latin name and from where those plants are coming, and also about more specific details with 4 of the plants that I collected through that weeding process. Right now in the Dragoman Marsh, I'm collaborating with scientists, and they're really interesting projects that we are working on, but probably they will come in the next few years.
What is the main message you want to convey through your art? What do you hope your audience feels or understands when interacting with your works?
How we are connected. This is something which is really important. How we speak to each other. And also when we speak about languages, not only our human language, but non-human perspective as well. this is, I believe we can learn a lot through that kind of, to listen and to try to understand.
For our listeners who are just starting out in the art world, you are a young artist too.
Do you think so? I'm 33, because of course I'm still young, of course, but there are a lot of open calls that say that the young artist is until 35. So still I'm a young artist, yeah. Yeah.
So you have
long time.
2 years more to
yeah.
to become an old artist. So, for young artists, for younger than you, what advice would you offer them? How can they find the balance between inspiration and execution in their creation? What is the hardest part, to thinking to an idea or to put in practice, to put in matter the idea?
Yes, sometimes they're really good ideas, but some people couldn't manage, or to find a way to realize them. Really often there are some not so good ideas that are shaped really well and that could be really fast to be sold somewhere. Yeah. But the question is, what kind of artist you would like to be, because some people are working with a project orientated, so applying for funds, they then creating some projects or traveling for different residencies, applying for the residencies. There are some artists that are preferred to work with the studio practice, to be represented by some gallery. There are a lot of options, of course. There are not only those, but there are different kind of possibilities that every person who is dealing with the freelance, let's say, or maybe not only freelance, of course, but working as an artist, there are some questions. So for me, 4 years ago, the question was, should I work as an artist after my working time? And then I decided to quit everything, but who knows what will gonna happen in the next years. But
Do you sell your artworks?
I'm selling from time to time, not very often, but yes. Last month, my work Drought that I did in 2021 was chosen to be part of the European collection for contemporary art, and I'm super happy about that. Yes, there are some works that are in private collections and in Sofia City Art Gallery collection. So I have also that practice to sell works, but also I'm working for some projects. I'm doing some site-specific works.
How do you spend your free time when you are not working, when you are not artist, or you are artist every moment? Are there any other passion or activities that help you maintain balanced and inspirations?
Right now, there are no boundaries or borders between my free and working time for good or bad. But I really like the projects that I'm doing. Depends a bit. For example, here I was learning how to operate with the equipment of the scientists, extracting some sediments or looking through the microscopes or collecting some data. I merged the boundaries, the borders between my free and working time, and I believe in that as an artist as well, you can try to balance between not to be obsessed always, but sometimes, that happens with your projects. That's what I'm trying. It's to have a time for my family, for the people that I love, And in the other time when I'm working on some projects, for me it's really interesting because depends of the projects I'm going. For example, I'm sinking into the marsh, or I'm going into the empty swimming pool, or I'm part of the bird ringing camp. Or I can, of course, work in the garden collecting weeds or something else. And for me, this is something that is super interesting because I learn all the time. And then there are a lot of interesting connections with people that are not people that are artists or that are historians or curators or that are, I don't know, that for example are working as farmers or something else. And I love to hear some stories. And I believe every person has something to share. And that's why I love to do what I'm doing.
What I understand is to be an artist is a lifetime project, and an artist is an artist every moment.
This is my perspective. Well, of course, there are different perspectives. Some artists probably they would like to have another kind of experience, to work in their studios, not to meet with anyone, to look in some other directions, maybe deeper in themselves, or I don't know. But for me, it's really important to meet the people and to meet also some habitats or some ecosystems and to experience by myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sunt Mihaela Ghiță. Vă mulțumesc că ați fost alături de noi în acest episod cu 𝑀𝑎𝑟𝑖𝑎 𝐶𝐵𝒉𝒂𝒄. Nu uitați să ne urmăriți pentru mai multe episoade inspiratoare unde arta și știința se întâlnesc pentru a crea ceva cu adevărat magic. 𝐼𝒍𝒻 este un proiect organizat de Asociația Qolony și cofinanțat de Administrația Fondului Cultural Național cu sprijinul Institutului Goethe.